Hey guys, Matt. This chapter is very close to the end. It's moved up a bit. I'm going to present it now. It's almost completely done. It's actually things we can do, the action steps, the culmination of everything that I've been able to put together. There are a few more things coming, but the drafts need to be cleaned up. This will probably be the only chapter I can load for 5 or 6 days or even a little bit more because everything else is so rough it needs a lot of work. But I just want to jump right into this. And this is the most important chapter so far because it's actually things we can start doing every day to live our lives, to move ourselves away from the system to basically protect our humanity, for lack of better words. In the end, there's no need to try to figure anything out. The screen will continue to dance all around you all the time for the rest of your life to get your attention. Screw it. All that matters is what you do and what we do for ourselves. How will you improve yourself using all the tools that your lifetime affords and has already handed you? What will you do with them? What follows is the best combination of ideas I've ever come across. If anything, even if you don't implement these immediately, it will get you started, get people walking at least in the right direction. And just ignoring the screen and leaving that behind is pointing in the right direction. The really good news is what we must do for ourselves is the same course of action, no matter what is going on in this game of Clue that we no longer play anyway. All of the following can be applied no matter what is the ultimate aim or goal of the creatures. The human path is pretty much the same in all cases. That is the best news that the conclusion that I came to that came out of this. It's absolute best news. It's no matter what the antics, what we need to do for ourselves is the same. As I believe this is a life test, that implies there are ramifications for not passing. But as daunting as that task seems here, even Shawshank Prison was escapable with the proper planning and enough patience. Consider all the ways we can use this world to improve ourselves personally and spiritually. The big question is that process and the final refined product of you, what we transform ourselves into, is that ultimate outcome for this lifetime or for what comes after? If you can truly transform yourself into somebody today, somebody or an entity that you would never even recognize when you were 25 years old, for example, is the final application of that to be applied now or something to carry with us after death? Both, I think. But mostly, personally, I believe it's for what comes after. This is a Spartan training ground for what comes after. This life is too fleeting to have any real cosmic stock, in my opinion. It's gone in an instant. Is the final refinement of ourselves, the final product that we can transform ourselves into, is that so we can, quote, act now and recruit legions like Gladiator and march on the city of London to fix it and fix the world and fix the screen? You'll likely agree, like I said, that this earth is a Spartan training ground, spiritually, for something that comes next. The skills we can develop and the being we will become will last forever. But what we can do to change the world now, to change the screen, let's face it, it's extremely limited, no matter what we can become ourselves. I know it's a bit negative, but it's realistic. I just think that's not what it's supposed to be. It sounds selfish, but it's about what we do here for ourselves. Now that will reflect into our reality bubbles. Of course, that will positively impact our world, but is that the point? If we become that enlightened person, the benefits of that can be applied immediately to society. But was that what the life progression and the spiritual level up was for? To fix Washington? To clean up the music industry? Is it the final and ultimate purpose of a successful life journey to send Hillary Clinton and those types of creatures to jail? Of course not. That's ridiculous. That's a screen activity. It's probably what the screen wants. Looking at them from far enough away, those Hillary Clinton creature types are merely role players here, and potentially necessary role players for our own spiritual journey. We can truly change and transform only ourselves, or the few good souls that we come into direct contact with, who come into our reality bubbles. And in terms of influencing them, then only if they desire change, only if they're asking the right questions. No, we can't force this on anybody. We've learned that. Those days are over. We can only set an example that they and the people around us may wish to emulate. No matter what we do here, another Bush, another Clinton creature will likely become president again someday, and the problems of this world will likely roll forward. Maybe purposefully, to wake others up. You understand the message I'm trying to get across there about the potential role of the creatures. Now, we're a long way from a mass enlightenment, so stop aiming for such a massive goal. Also, where is, quote, the location of a goal like that? Is a mass awakening and a mob rising up with a call for Hillary to go to jail, is that within you? Or is that out on the screen? Of course, it's just another screen activity. Perhaps the NPCs will get a download at some point, and those people around us that may be true golems and have no divine aspect to themselves. We don't know how many of these people are, but you never know. Everybody of these people could get a download. So now everybody around you sees 9/11, and you'll get a phone call from your brother-in-law who will beg your forgiveness over the mean things he said to you about the Captain Hook event. Who knows? That could be their ultimate ace in the hole to distract the mutants and the half-mutants, to create a situation where we look around and believe we've won. Think about it. Of course, only the mutants who have left the screen behind won't be at all fazed by this, won't be fazed no matter what happens. No matter what happens, it could be a final Hail Mary desperate pass to the end zone by the screen. If Anthony Weiner someday is in the same cell as Hillary, from my perspective, who cares? That has nothing to do with my spiritual level up. If Hillary went to jail, most so-called truthers would be out in the street blowing their air horns, and the attitude and the party going on in the street would be just like the Treaty of Versailles was just signed after World War I. But I remind you, that treaty was signed in the Hall of Mirrors. Even the days of celebration in this fake reality are likely cooked up and planned by the control structure. The Treaty of Versailles was signed in the Hall of Mirrors. Coincidence? I doubt it. These so-called truthers that we watch all day on YouTube, very few are real mutants, for they lack the basic powers of no longer being fooled at the highest level. In terms of seeing a certain fake event, they're not fooled. They can see that. But that's fine by the screen, because that's a screen analysis. That's a screen activity. The only manifestation of not being fooled that matters is to turn away from the screen and walk out. It's a painful realization, and to repeat what was said a minute ago, in the end we can only change ourselves. All of us have been unsuccessful preachers pushing truth in people's faces for too long. Unsuccessful preachers. Now, the Flat Earth community makes this mistake more than most groups do. I'm going to pick on them again. Sorry. They run around trying to convince. Trying to convince is the outward direction the screen wants. The wardens of this realm have implemented safeguards to protect their ruse in ways we metaphysically can't understand. No one person or group is going to break through and be a catalyst for a mass wake-up. We don't technically even know how many real spirited beings exist here, if you know what I mean, for the NPC element. We don't know. People will come into a spiritual level up when they are ready. Okay? They are not going to be convinced of anything. They will come into a spiritual level up and start walking that path only when they are ready. This is the nature of reality itself. If flat Earth becomes an end in and of itself, which is what it has become to most of this group, an end in and of itself, that is exactly what the minions and the creatures want. Flat Earth is only a just pursuit if one day that stepping stone can be left behind to find true spiritual progression and to walk the human path as Cain did in Kung Fu, individually. He wasn't running around getting in people's faces, pushing his Buddhism on people. There's not one person in the Flat Earth movement who positions it as anything other than the final end in and of itself, or the final terminus. As if when the world finally wakes up and sees that NASA's lied about everything, which of course that must mean the Earth is flat, one must jump to the other. But when people finally see this, because they'll see that NASA's lied about everything, because it's such a clown show, it's amazing why people can't see it, then that, of course, you will just immediately jump to the flat Earth camp, because there can be no other possibilities, and then everything will be all better. The world will sing Kumbaya, we'll watch Hillary Clinton hauled off to jail from our alehouses, and the whole world will just be all better. And the screen laughs at that. This is the same fallacious behavior and reasoning as thinking what people tend to think, that my life will be just great if I can just get that promotion. Or won't life just be wonderful if I could just lose these 15 pounds, everything will fall into line. Or if I can just get that Manhattan apartment. You know, that's the siren song of the screen. When these wonderful things are finally achieved, nothing at all really changes, because there hasn't been any material change in yourself or in anybody that would make those proclamations. Once we see the entire play here is fraudulent, it should be clear that our personal life journey, spiritual progression, has nothing to do with the screen at all. It has nothing to do with anything out there trying to get in our face all the time. For anybody new here, the screen that surrounds you, imagine or substitute the word society. Personal life journey has nothing to do with the society out there, or conforming with culture. Or you could insert the term the matrix. Culture, which includes media and government, or anything outside of your immediate reality bubble. Nothing important in terms of the journey of this life has anything to do with anything outside of your immediate reality bubble. It's that simple. So the Spartan training ground here must be, in my opinion, for what comes after. For to think we're going to change the world after our personal enlightenment is futile. Of course, the person we will become, again, will certainly be a benefit to everybody we come in contact with, to everybody that comes into our reality bubble. But this time spent on Earth is too fleeting. It's too cosmically trivial for this realm to be the final destination or the terminus of our root purpose for being. No, it's the training ground. It's the spring training. Use your inner tuning fork. Does this realm seem like a Spartan training ground for something to come? Or are we right now in the final battle? You know, this is it. That everything we are to become is for what we can do out our window. I think this life test is a training ground for souls, and not the ending scene of the movie Ender's Game. I'm going to give a little bit of away here in terms of the movie if you haven't seen it. This is too important not to. I think trying to get your life right for potentially the next few trillion years may be slightly more important than giving away the end of a movie. But I'm just going to go out on a limb and make the decision to give the movie away. Again, training ground for souls here, not the end of Ender's Game. Now, many people would remark, that was an odd choice of a movie analogy, because in the movie, the final battle that was actually taking place was thought to be a training simulation by those fighting the battle. Instead, those directing the troops, they were lied to, and the real final battle at the end of the movie Ender's Game was actually taking place. But those coordinating the troops believed it was the final simulation, the final training. Very interesting, and a lot of that can be applied in some way to our situation. In the movie, it was kids directing troops, but they only thought it was a training program. Either way, this could be the final battle, but either way, it's a personal one. It may be the last chance for some of us to get it right. It may be one level away from winning. Success will depend on what you become for yourself, not if you were able to place Hillary Clinton in jail, or not based on any metric of what you reach out and try to do to the screen. In Star Trek: The Next Generation, the all-powerful Q entity, he was called Q, that's it, he was just called Q. He was stripped of his powers in one episode and banished to the USS Enterprise, where Captain Picard was. That's the series. Now, Q was banished and begrudgingly served as the ship's crew, as a regular mortal. Powers were gone. In the end, the Enterprise is put in danger, and Q, as a regular mortal stripped of his powers, puts himself in harm's way to save the ship. The moment he committed this selfless act, his powers and immortal nature was restored by the others in the Q continuum. The others are called Q as well. Now, if the rest of our lives were nothing other than the commission of selfless acts, the rest of our lives we did nothing other than perform selfless acts. From a cosmic perspective, looking down from above, from far enough away, that's really no different than one act. Okay? Oh, Matt, if I spent the next 20 years performing selfless acts, life is so fleeting that, again, from anybody's perspective, from the Rock of Gibraltar's perspective, that's no different than one act. Because from far enough away, or from the perspective of the Rock of Gibraltar, 1 year or 1 day is no different than 200 years or 2,000. It's a joke, cosmically, the length of our lives. They're literally that short. So what is 20 or 30 years compared to all that is? I'll say that again. What is 20 or 30 years compared to all that is or ever will be? I mean, we can't even put it into perception, or there's no words. It's a billionth of a blink of time. What else are you going to say? If we spend the rest of our lives helping others, we should not expect a trophy for this. Is this Star Trek's analogy Q? How Q is placed in the Enterprise for a learning experience? Is this a similar analogy that we see how truth comes through media? The Q continuum knew that this lower level Q, the one that was banished, they knew one way or another that this Q banished to the Enterprise would learn a lesson or perish, one or the other. He would learn his lesson or perish. Seems very similar to our situation. Learn our lesson, or soul goes to the abyss. I've said that many times. What the Pope said. Here it is again. Sorry, it's too important. Learn a lesson, soul token, light gets stronger, or light gets extinguished. Go to the abyss. Papal truth drop. Now, Q only thought serving aboard the Enterprise was punishment and a form of banishment. He just saw it as a form of punishment and a form of banishment. He didn't know he was being watched. So if that was not the case, why was he being watched by the other Q if it was just punishment and banishment? No, he was forced to learn, or he would cease to exist. Is that, in one sentence, what we are doing here? We are forced to learn, or we will cease to exist. If I had one sentence to sum up everything, that would be it. When Q was willing to commit the selfless act on the Enterprise, put himself in the line of fire to save everybody else, then the all-powerful ones in his continuum, they figured he had learned his lesson, and he was restored. His full power was restored. His full nature was restored. Now, to me, this is the best analogy in media that's really I've ever seen. It really is this simple. Because if he had not done that, from the Q continuum's perspective, he would cease to exist. He would eventually been killed aboard the Enterprise, and that would be the end of that. That's probably what this snow globe's all about. Again, don't forget, what is this life if you can put it against or compare it to all that is, was, and ever will be? What is this life? There's no words for it. It's a joke, no matter how hard the Spartan training is. It's a joke times a trillion if you compare it against all that ever was and all that ever will be. So imagine the horror of actually, if it's possible, to lose this game. Imagine the horror of your perspective that you lost the game. You chased speedboats. You chased getting whacked off, and when coming home late to your wife. You chased bullshit of this realm, and somehow, in somewhat of a spiritual state upon death, you see that you only need to do certain things here for what amounted to like a billionth of a blink of a blink. That's all you needed to do. The selfless act. It was like one selfless act from a cosmic perspective to win, and instead you lost. You squandered it. And if there was the Q continuum looking over us, the analogy from Star Trek, they'd say, "You stupid son of a bitch. This world, all you had to do was a few things for yourself. You ran around chasing speedboats and getting whacked off behind the Waffle House. You don't, whatever essence is left in you doesn't deserve to become part of the immortal nature of all that is. The abyss with you." I mean, it would be that joke, and you'd say, "Oh my God, well, I can't, now that I see the perspective of what this life was, I can't believe I can't believe I just didn't do those few basic things." Again, it's all about perspective. Okay, you get what I'm saying, but the problem in the way I'm presenting it is it seems like, and I keep saying Spartan training ground and things like that, it seems like, well, we just have to tough it out. And it's really hard work and training this life and this existence. And it's things we really don't want to do, but we have to suck it up and do it. Like Rocky suffering as he's training for the second Clubber Lang fight. I'm trying to get a point across, but I have to then adjust my point, because that's not the way to think about it. I think when we truly win, the selfless acts and the gratitude for every aspect of this life experience won't be work. I think a big problem is seeing this life as something we must endure. That's the big problem. Or if we can avoid that, we should try to avoid that. Like Silas in the Da Vinci Code. And this life is just meant for suffering, and if I'm not suffering, I'm going to put these spikes into my leg and pull the cord and make myself suffer, like that albino thing in the Da Vinci Code. We just have to tough it out to the finish line of death. So if life is a brutal test or a training ground, I think the key is very, very clear. We must create a situation for ourselves where spiritual leveling up and that process is not work, is not something to suffer through or endure. That path, I believe, exists. If we're fighting just to get to the finish line of death, just to endure this existence, fighting like a triathlete competitor, crawling the last mile in agony, is that the way many of us are seeing this life? If we're doing it that way, we're doing it the wrong way. I don't want to say that's failure if you're doing everything else correctly, but that's not the ideal path. The exact opposite of what people should be doing in regards to the life journey is to do the opposite of what that Silas was doing in the Da Vinci Code movie. The creepy albino, would whip himself even with the spikes around his legs. He was intent on making himself suffer. Even when he, felt great, but he's going to make himself suffer like any god would want that. This life will make us suffer enough on our own. Our task is to find the spiritual path that's no longer work. One that's joyous and not just the mental aspect of enduring this and just to make it to the end, and we have to endure it, and the training is so horrible. the path, that other path, does exist for all of us, with just one exception. And I have no credentials or right to give any advice to the people I'm about to talk to, but I can't ignore them either. If people that are in severe physical pain, this life, it does become something to be endured, or those that have had tremendous personal loss with close loved ones, a tragedy, major tragedy. I'm not talking about losing parents. We all lose parents. I'm talking about a major tragedy with loved ones. Then this existence, this experience does seem like something that must be endured. And, you know, you're going to throw out the advice that I was just trying to give, like you're going to jump out of bed in the morning with rosy glasses and go walk down the street and sing Kumbaya with everybody and walk the path of spiritual progression. That is no longer work. No, for some people it's always going to be work. I have no right to speak about it, but I don't want to ignore people in that situation either, so I must mention it here. It does become something that needs to be endured, and I have no right to give any advice, but the only advice that I would give is that don't let it destroy you with anger. Do not let you have a harder task than anybody, but don't let it destroy you with anger. Mindset is everything, and in terms of what I'm going to talk about, what we can do to separate ourself from the system, to protect our humanity, can be applied by anybody in any situation. I wanted to address those people because it wouldn't be right for me not to. Now, soon in this chapter, I'm going to present grades K, or first grade through 12, as to action steps to take, what we can do to protect our humanity, to separate from the screen, to make sure we're fostering ties and connections to higher self and cutting ties with the lower 666 realm that wants to suck us down into the abyss. That's all coming, but I have to get this out now. It's like a warning, a disclaimer. There's a potential trap or a method of hijacking one's desire to spiritually progress. Now, I've witnessed this firsthand, or I kind of sensed something wasn't right, and I've pulled back from this. Although the demon didn't pop up in my face proverbially, but some may have experience with this, and I would like your comments on this. But some people will come to us when they know we're on this path, and they know we want to wake up and we want to spiritually do for ourselves. They will say to us, ask the universe for something. Ask the universe to be able to see. And look, people have come to me and mentioned this, but I get a creepy feeling. Let me just be real plain about it. I cut it off because I get a creepy feeling about it. And maybe you guys in the comments will say, am I assessing this correctly in my perception, or am I totally going wrong on this? And I need to be, I need to be told what is what. Tell me in the comments. People say, well, ask the universe for something. Ask the universe to be able to see, or perhaps to see clearly, perhaps to drop veils. Ask the universe, like The Secret, to have wealth. Now, my personal take on this is this. Never haphazardly ask the ether, or ask anything out into the ether for something. If you ask the universe for something, I don't know what kind of entity may be listening or interested in responding to my request, if you see what I'm saying. Now, I understand Christians will ask Jesus for things. Understand that. Christians, of course, will continue to do this. This is their choice. Understand it. But I personally won't ask for something from the ether for any of the reasons I mentioned, and I would say think about this very carefully if anybody ever comes to you and asks and tells you to do this. I would say that we should have the power within ourselves to drop all veils, to see things clearly, to build all of our spiritual muscles. It's like do it ourselves in the gym. Somebody come to you with steroids, or here's a shortcut. Ask the ether for something. No, I might not like what responds. People thinking, what do you mean, man? You think a demon? Yeah, I'm not, traditional religious or anything like that, or I don't take most of the Bible literally, but yeah, demon would be like the best way to describe it. Who knows what will pop up? Maybe you believe you deserve to know how this world works, or you deserve certain things, deserve a degree of wealth or a loving family with children. That's fine. But my advice is never ask it out into the air. Again, who knows who's listening? Asking also immediately implies that we or you have no power. You can't do it for yourself. You have to ask. I don't like that, asking for anything. Whatever it could respond assumes then a position of power over whomever asked. Think about it. If somebody, oh, Matt, could you do me this favor? I don't, the person responding assumes a position of power. Okay, that's how it works. I don't want to manifest that, but do what you want. This is just a warning to take it or leave it based on personal intuition. In summary, before presenting grades 1 through 12, deep down, we know we are immortal spirit that has always been. I mean, if you just allow yourself to really meditate on it, it's so obvious. The atheist, we've been over this, is just so lost, that atheism. But look, we all have different belief set, and I believe this strongly without associating myself with any religion. We're just what Alan Watts said, just the part of the source of all life. That's blasphemy. No, it's not. God can't create something that's not, by definition, part of God. It's not blasphemy. We don't know, though, how we got into this bizarre place and strange predicament that we're in. We know there's a sinister element here of some kind. Whether it's playing the exact role the realm intended, or it also seems like it's biting off more than it should. It's taking liberties. It's going into places it should not. Maybe breaking contracts. That's what the sinister element seems to be doing here. But maybe it's just playing its role. Again, analyzing the sinister element has nothing to do with what we need to do for ourselves. But generally, the sinister element means we probably are here to do the work now. All of this is around us, so we do the work now. So our spirit can, quote, get the hell out of here. Think about that statement. People say, let's get the hell out of here. Where did that phrase come from? The phrases that are laid down, all of us know, and it's just laid down for generation after generation. I would say that it's there for a reason. It's like a truth drop. It's there for a reason. Let's get the hell out of here. It's like laid down in our reality, like ground zero and grassy knoll. Stuff like that. The 180-degree rule and the duality realm suggests everything here is inverted, and backwards. So, like we've talked about, like Levet says, life, this existence on the Loth 666 realm, may be death to a spirit. This may be death, and death may become life. But I don't want to be born again. See that? Remember those words we talked about being inserted into our reality like grassy knoll? What jerk genius came up with that one? Grassy knoll. They're still laughing about people using that one. They inserted that into our fake reality, and the dummies are still using it. Grassy knoll. But I get worried about born again. What does born again mean? To me, if you take it literally, it means born again into this realm. Born again into this earth. To see another Clinton molest an intern in the year 2070. Regarding this realm, I don't like the words born again. If you're Christian and you don't think aspects of Christianity have been hijacked, you're being extremely naive. You can be a Christian, follow the tenets, read the Bible for the teaching of Jesus Christ. But if you just lay down to all of it, take my advice here. You just lay down to all of it and don't be, because it has been in the hands of kings and Roman emperors. If you don't watch out for some of the tricks and traps that the kings and the emperors would have inserted into religion over thousands of years, you just think it's completely pure, you're being extremely naive. For example, I don't like born again. So the entire book, all the sludge through the slough through the mud and the neck deep in crap and all the stupid conspiracy and seeing fraud at every single level and everything's a lie and everything's a manipulation, brings us to this moment. Jump up and yell kumbaya. What the hell do we do now? When I first writing this, when I first started writing this, I was just trying to wake people up in mass. Like I was arrogant enough to think I could just hand them a book, and then they would come out the other side and say, "Thank you, Matt, now I'm awake. It's wonderful." But we all progress. That was my thinking when I started the notes on this stuff 3 years ago about that. Just wake people up, something I've been doing forever. Now I understand that task is likely impossible, unless one is ready to become the grasshopper and starts asking a few questions and they're opening up. Some people, there was a time when we all were like that. But there's a lot difference in fostering those people along versus putting in people's face. Now, again, I'll hold out hope, and I prefer the word, it's extremely difficult to wake up people in mass. Not impossible. I'll hold out some hope. But I'm not going to place my money on anybody waking up per the arguments of others, or through people having, debates down at the park, or through the production of very clever videos. These videos are just, I appreciate them, and they are useful because I help people learn. People that make videos help me learn. We all progress back and forth. This is for ourselves. It's not. We hope somebody stumbles upon the videos, but that's not the reason for it. It's we have boats to lift our boats. The people that now are happy to call themselves mutants. People will wake up on their own when their time right. And the time is right might not even be the right lifetime for them if you believe in that sort of thing. The main point of this book now, going forward, is one, to preserve history, to lay down all the schemes that they pulled, and to remember them, and to just ask the few people who can see to focus the rest of their life on devising means to improve themselves, as if this world is a filter and only something pure can get the hell out. Regarding death, improving here means actively learning and preparing for it. I mean, the whole society, you'd never think of death, never prepare yourself for what could be the next part of your journey. No. When society says don't think about it, don't talk about it, don't mention it, don't ever put out theories, don't postulate, just keep quiet about it, then the Don Lemon 180-degree rule says we should be doing it every day. We should absolutely look at this realm as a preparation for death, or that's just means what's next. It's the opposite of doing nothing, or some Christians are just wait for Jesus. That you think would Jesus want you sitting around waiting? I don't think so. Right now is part of forever. Isn't right now part of forever? So it's doing the work every day. If you improve yourself in any way, daily, you'll be an immediate positive reflection on everything and everyone around you. The attitude of just going to tread water here and make do here until I can just, the day of my death, a trick will come. And I just have to tread water here and prepare for the trick that will come on the day of my death, where the arcana creatures will try to recycle me back to this realm again. No, it's just treading water. Everybody knows we're not here to tread water. It's just as bad as waiting around to be saved by the rapture, for example. Waiting around, no. Spartan training ground. Get back out and train. If we're here to improve ourselves spiritually for all time, this day is part of all time. The rest of your experience begins right now. Never have the attitude of doing time on this realm, hanging out in the yard with Andy Dufresne and Red in the yard of Shawshank, waiting for his next parole hearing to come up. Yeah, you just wait around. They'll come into the room and they'll stamp denied on your parole if you're just waiting around, and like Red having a catch with Andy Dufresne. Remember what he said? Get busy living or get busy dying. A truth drop regarding life or death of spirit? Life or death of spirit? Probably. I've said it 5 times in this chapter. I'll say it again. All you can do is work on yourself. Well, Matt, that sounds awfully selfish. Sounds awfully selfish. Just work on yourself. No, it's not. Improving the entire world starts with ourselves. It only comes through ourselves and leading by example. It's not about attacking the screen with pitchforks and torches. Let's go get 'em. That's ridiculous. That's what it wants. Anytime you breathe emotion into the screen, that it gets, you breathes life into it. The egregore, whatever, gets more powerful. The only thing that can breathe life into it is you, real spirited beings. It's not selfish. It has to come from within, improving yourself. You know, thinking years ago I could wake up everybody who's out there. How stupid I was, how arrogant. But it was just the Matrix pulling me outside of myself again. The Matrix trying to stroke my ego again. Although that's not a stroking of the ego event, because nobody is successful in waking up people around them. So that's one area I'll take that back, where the Matrix is not going to stroke your ego, because it doesn't want anybody waking up to some of the things that we talk about. So it's going to cut you off there. Now, this does not mean an earthly existence of total isolation and suffering. There are wondrous things and wondrous pleasures of this realm that we should take advantage of. It's not a sin if we take advantage of them. It's part of life. All of this is to be experienced, to grow, and level up with the right frame of mind. Okay, here it comes. This is Dr. Xavier's Mutant School, grades 1 through 12. Mutant School. You want to train for the spiritual fight? This is, there's a lot more training. People do a lot more after school. This is the starting place. Grades, I have a K here. K through 12 in Xavier's School for Mutants. In a spiritual fight, though, it's not fighting with anything on the screen, ever. Okay, obviously. In this place, not fighting it is the best way to fight it. Starving it is the best way to fight it. Ignoring it is the best way to fight it. There's nothing to fight anyway in a reality generation machine. There's no boss level in a reality generation machine. George Bush creatures are on-the-ground minions. Henry Kissinger, Clinton, Lady Gaga, these are on-the-ground minions running around doing their spirit cooking. They're not the final control entity or generals. They're just on-the-ground minions. I've listed the steps below, and I've listed them in their order of importance. These are the lessons to live our lives by from everything I've ever come across during this journey. Oh, and if this is redundant to you, please understand we're all at different levels here, and it's not that important. Only our entire spiritual essence, the divine nature of who we are, escaping this realm, it's only little stuff like that hangs in the balance. Why should we go over anything at all that could be something of such little importance? When the stakes are this big, it's worth repeating, and pretty much repeating for the rest of our lives. There are truth channels that break down the same fake events. You want to talk about something that's not important? Yeah, if it's redundant, it's worth being redundant, because the person listening to this with the lowest level of understanding does not, like George Bush would say, should not be a child left behind. Okay, guys, first grade is kindergarten. Come on in. Whistle just blew. Billy Madison's in class. Come on into kindergarten. And again, this is going through the school, so you tackle each grade as you can. I don't think you can tackle each grade at once. Even Billy Madison had to spend a week in each class before he went up. And there is a summary note at the end, and it might take a while to print the book. This is the culmination of everything I've looked at in trying to decipher the predicament we're in. So it sounds arrogant, but maybe you want to take a note on each grade, and just simple things to live our life by, based on everything I've ever looked at. This is it. This isn't the end of the book, because we're going to narrow this down to even half a page. but this is getting close to the summary. Kindergarten is just basic and general advice in kindergarten. When you can read the matrix code and you can read society's script, break the script at every turn. Kindergarten is when you can see how the system wants you to react to something, simply do the opposite. If you can see the path the system desires you to be on, don't take the path. See what daily drudgery the system wants you marching to and occupied with and stressed out over, and just step out of line by doing something different than what the Matrix wants. The Matrix wants you fighting with your uncle over politics, for example. Don't do it. Never do it again. The Matrix wants you in massive debt. There are hundreds of millions of baited hooks in this realm put forth by the Matrix and the screen. Don't take any of them. Don't take any of them for the rest of your life. Now, interestingly, if you can simply pass kindergarten, you are a friggin' PhD compared to most people around us. As you now see, 95% or more of people around us aren't even enrolled in school. Summary of kindergarten. See what it wants, do the opposite. Okay, we graduated. Let's go over with Billy Madison to first grade. That hot teacher in first grade? I forget what grade she was in. First grade. Never place yourself in a system-generated camp. These camps exist so the people in opposing camps will hate each other. This is what they're all for. These camps. To divide human beings. It degrades spiritual essence. All camps feed the system. Let me repeat that. All camps of all types feed the system and the screen. Even picking an NFL team, a football team, feeds the system. Giants fans come down to the Philadelphia Link. They come to the Link to fight with Eagles fans. The list of system-generated camps is long. Black Lives Matter, Catholic, homosexual, Baptist, Protestant, NOW member, National Organization for Women, white, transgender, Muslim, pro-Obama, pro-Trump, NRA, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, blah, 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 blah. Camp. The only camp that's decent is like a camp for kids, they chase around fireflies. That's it. That camp's, I guess, okay. Keep going for a few hundred more pages in terms of the system camps that are laid out in front of our feet. Very simple. Never place yourself into a system-generated camp. Like I've said many times using this particular example, people are feeding the system by doing these women's marches. No matter what injustice may still exist in what areas, you're feeding the system and doing exactly what it wants if you're participating in these women's marches. Worship God, no matter what your religion. But why on earth would you need $1 billion middleman infrastructure to do that? It's a camp. How many people have walked into an utterly, incredibly massive cathedral, say the one in Cologne, Germany, for example? How many people then immediately think about all the expense and effort that was put into its architecture, construction, and design, and all of those resources should have been just put into helping people? How many people think that the first thing they do when they stand in those gigantic cathedrals? A few people. Few people standing inside the mountain of stone ever think about those sorts of things. If big religion was real, churches the size of the Superdome would never have been built in the first place. Summary is simple. Never join a camp. We are one with nature. We are one with all of creation. We always will have, all of us carry prejudice, bias, bigotry. We all carry a degree of racism. Everybody carries these things. It is kind of a part of being human. People want to be around their own kind. Ducks are generally around other ducks. The ducks don't generally hang out with squirrels. It's normal. It's normal. But just whenever these biases occur in us, it's just simply work on ourselves to overcome them. That's all. Okay, let's go into second grade. Billy Madison didn't make it. He's going to repeat first grade. Second grade. Again, if it seems a little redundant, It's second grade. This is the simple stuff. Give the system of lies and manipulation and the screen all around us no energy. Never give it any of your energy or attention. The first day of second grade is a permanent homework assignment of this. Stop watching the news. Yes, I appreciate many people here have thrown out their television. I have not yet done that. But the people that have thrown out their television, they are already close to passing second grade. You know, when the news comes on, sure, a wildfire is real, and it really burned out paradise. The campfire burned out paradise. And, a local California station may report on that, and that's real, and then they'll report that a certain team wins the Super Bowl, and that's real. But about 90% of the news is a fraudulent script designed to elicit something from you. That's the key. The script is fraudulent and designed to elicit something from you. Okay? It's almost always something negative that the system feeds on, like fear. But it's all negative, really. But I mean, there can also be a covet, lusting, a wanting of material possession. But it's usually, especially with the news, it's fear and things like that, anger, stress. Now, when I wrote this last night on the ABC World News, the Plastic Man came forth, and there was a story, big story on the back end of the news. Doctor drops newborn baby. Can you believe that was in the World News? Now, there's only one reason for that story, just one reason: to elicit an incredible emotion so some sort of energetic vampire could feed off of it. The doctor drops newborn baby on the World News. If people can't see that it was not there to elicit something, they are lost. And the people that would put forth a news headline like that are absolute monsters. This is not a news story. It's 100% designed to have an emotion put out in mass by the viewers. Now, personally, I don't believe watching little TV like nature shows, a few sporting events like a World Cup soccer or a movie now and then is some horrible violation of your spiritual evolution. I don't see that at all. It's how you observe it. Your frame of mind. Is it getting your energy? How will you make your choices, though? This is a big realm out there, a lot of distraction, and it's just about making the right choices, not completely cutting yourself off to everything. For example, I see a world of difference in, pulling up an old VCR tape. Let's watch John Wayne and Big Jake, or let's watch John Wayne in stupid Western, like supposed to be funny, like McClintock, versus, or even watching that on Netflix, versus running out and spending $60 or $70 for the entire family to go see the latest Disney movie in the theater, for example, putting life and energy directly into the system and the screen. We have to be realistic. We're not going to go live in a cardboard box. If you go out and spend big money and watch the latest, is Aladdin still in theaters? Go watch Will Smith. You might as well just put your wrist out to the ether and let the energetic vampire suck blood from you if you're going to do that. It doesn't mean we have to go the opposite and put ourselves in a box, a cardboard box up on Brokeback Mountain. If somebody wants to debate politics, there's only one reason they want to do that. They want to pull the energy and anger out of you. Don't ever do it. Walk away. What's the debate anyway? It's a fake script on all fronts. It's Eminence Front. It's a put-on from a band called The Who. Summary: never feed it your energy and emotion. Let's go over to third grade in the same elementary school. Matt, this seems simple and easy. Really? It is. Winning is really easy. It's simple winning. But are you talking the talk or are you walking the walk? You have a little card with these things? You're living your life by these things with every decision you make? But Matt, this seems easy and redundant. Well, we're only in third grade. Sit down and shut up. Okay, third grade here is taught by Professor Turgison. That's the Sam Kinison character from Rodney Dangerfield's Back to School. Remember? Say it! Say it! So that's for a purpose, because it's about stress and anxiety, and you'll remember that professor. You'll associate it with third grade. Third grade is this, simply. Step out of your state of constant anxiety and worry that this realm wants to put you into. Now, caring about something is not worrying. Caring about something and making it important to you is not worrying. It's a total difference. The entire system is set up to cause you stress, worry, and anxiety. There are millions of examples, from an 80,000-page tax code to every time you call a large company. We are experiencing longer than normal wait times. This is all by design. Let me repeat this. The entire society, without almost anybody being in on it, is constructed on purpose to bring out as much anxiety and stress on people as possible. Okay? Right down to we're experiencing longer than normal wait times. Now, we can understand something like that if we're calling a toy company on Christmas Eve. But we see this time after time now with the largest of companies. Of course, I think it's on purpose. The system delivers its anxiety by way of 1,000 paper cuts all day long. Again, the top management at the company, they're not sitting around in boardrooms in on it, plotting against the callers. Most minions carrying out the wishes of the system are unknowing participants, and they're simply reality facilitators. I'll put the word, revise the book. They're sick reality facilitators. They're facilitating realities the way the screen wants it laid down on us, the way the system, not what's optimal for what human beings naturally should want. So the senior managers at Verizon, they're not sitting around thinking up ways to manifest stress on their own customers. You know, one person there leans in a Verizon meeting and volunteers this. Keep the bastards on hold with annoying wait music. If we want to stress them out, keep them on hold with the most annoying wait music we can come up with, and then tell them for the 20th year in a row, we're experiencing normal than expected wait times. Then, instead of offering soothing music while the customer is on hold, push more products and services on the bastards. That's what we're going to do to stress them all out. It seems like a plot, but it's not a plot, but that's what we get when we go on hold. It's never a soothing experience. It's stressful. There's a level of stress we're on hold with these companies. This exists by design, without the minions knowing they're even in on it. That is the beauty, for lack of a better word, or the fascination I have with this sick system designed by something sinister that we can't even comprehend. Of course, again, it's not a conscious choice of executives, yet I still will say it's on purpose. Can't explain exactly how all of this is generated by unknowing participants, but reality itself, reality is able to pull this off somehow. The system is constructed in a way so its main players deliver this stress to all of us as a byproduct of what they do every day in what they think is their normal job. The DMV, the motor vehicle places, are the best example. The people down at the state auto tags place, the people down at the state auto tag place are generally good people. They go home and they feed their kids, they change the cat litter. They don't realize the entire system is out to inflict anxiety, stress, and learned helplessness. And that they, the minions down at the auto tag place, they're playing their small role in this grand sick play, unknowingly playing it. Realize that attachment also creates fear of loss and perpetual anxiety and worry. This doesn't exist generally without attachment. Attachment can come in many, many forms. Why must you run with the Joneses? Everybody must run with the Joneses. Instead, live like in that movie. Live in the free state of Jones. Don't run with the Joneses. Why can't people just live simply? So there's not a lot of things to lose. There's very little consequence of loss, a little attachment. Limit attachment at every turn. Why must your kids do all these keeping up with the Joneses activities instead of playing in the backyard like anybody did over age 40. I guess you can't do that anymore. Some Buffalo Bill type will swoop down and sweep your kids up. That's what we've all been taught. That's all part of what having to wait for the kids. Oh, I'm late for the bus stop, and making sure we get the kids as soon as they come up down the bus because they're going to be snatched up by a Buffalo Bill figure. That's just one of another millions of ways the society creates anxiety and stress, and then they turn it up every year. It gets turned up higher and higher and higher. If you take this grade seriously, it starts with not giving a shit about what others are doing, thinking, or saying about you. Summary: whenever possible, live light, live carefree. Just go with the flow. Go with the flow. Like what's it called? Transurfing, a big part of transurfing, talking about the thought forms and the thought form demons and the pendulums that are constantly wanting us to attach to, and it's like breathing life into a thought form. Go with the flow. When the transurfing, one of the biggest lessons from transurfing is when something really smacks you in the face. A year ago, I woke up and had termite infestation. $1,600 to take care of it a year ago. But you can. The transurfing would say if you totally stress out over that, you breathe more life into it. You actually make it worse. That transurfing would say you actually can make literally your problem worse. Meaning you could almost turn that into you have more termite damage. You're creating it yourself. Literally, per how this reality works, versus that sucks. Just kind of letting it run off you like water off of a duck. Then it loses its energy. It fades away to a degree. The stress and anxiety this world brings is the same thing. Yeah, that really kind of sucks, and I'm gonna have to suck it up and do this or that, and I'm not gonna give it any emotion. I'm not gonna get angry. Damn it! No, I'm just go with the flow. This is life. You're gonna have to take care of this, and when something hits, let it roll off your back, water off the duck's back. This is not just for your best mental peace of mind. Of course, it's the healthiest to be like this, but this mindset is a keto against a system trying to put you in a certain state, and it's actually techniques that people believe literally pacify or nullify the problem. Okay? People literally believe if you give your energy to it, they would say you can literally create a bigger problem. And that's not a cute saying. I mean literally. And I'm going to just cite off the book here. There was a guy who's deceased now for about 10 years. You've never seen more positive than this guy. Now you can't fool yourself. Just trying to fool yourself. Oh, everything's great. That doesn't work. But this person, everything, there was always a good angle to everything. Where my father cites the example that he owned a series of, like, not a slumlord, but he owned some trailer parks and some low-level motels. He was a real estate guy for 50 years. And once he was, the place is on fire. The part of his motel is on fire. And, that seems like a nightmare. But it just constantly started working on the positives. Why the thing was literally burning. He's telling my dad, well, there's a series of bathrooms back there that actually need to be redone. And it's wonderful because we're going to get the money to redo them. And it just was literally flames shooting out. And he's talking about the positives of what happened. And the difference is believing it 100%, not trying to fool himself. Okay? And this is a skill, a technique that takes a long time to learn, to see the positive in anything. Maybe that's part of learning. Maybe you have to try to fool yourself for the first few months. It won't work. You won't have any positive results in your life. But if you can, the brain's rewired in a certain way by the system. If we can help rewire it, maybe I'll take that back. Maybe we do have to try to fool ourselves for a bit until we really see the positive and then actually believe it. Okay, let's move on over to the fourth grade. Fourth grade is sort of just like a one-day class. It's very short, right to the point, but it has to be its own grade. It's too important. Too important. Here it is. Never fear. Well, that seems simple. Yeah, it is. You know what? Guess what? The answer is really simple if we actually do it. How many people actually do it? The old witch of this system wants you in a perpetual state of fear. This is one step up from third grade. The anxiety, the stress. Fear is the biggest killer. The Matrix offers endless terrorism, war, threat of war, rumors of war, dictators, cancer, high prices, inflation, shortages, cooked up new diseases like Zika and Ebola. If you're in fear, I guarantee you, something will feed off of it. What do you have to fear? What the heck do I have to fear? That kind of came out funny, like somebody was squeezing my you-know-whats. What the heck do we have to fear? The monster in the movie The Green Lantern was fear itself. The monster in The Green Lantern was fear itself, actually gobbling up star systems or solar systems. The yellow power of fear, it was called. A truth drop? Yeah, absolutely. The moment you don't fear death, the moment you don't fear loss from attachment, this is like removing shackles, removing chains. You know, we've heard this one. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. A truth drop? Sure. Now FDR, you think I'm going to sing his praises? The man, like most of them, was an absolute monster. Monster. Knowingly or not knowingly, he was in that only thing to fear is fear itself. He was using millions of quantum reality creators potentially to breathe a tangible quality into something that should not exist, like creating an egregore. You'll follow me in a moment. FDR kind of made fear into a real thing, like an egregore. It's, one monster, which is FDR, breathing life into another monster, fear. The system wants you to fear. So we know what the real answer is. It's very simple. Don't fear. Again, for those that didn't follow what I said there, let me just repeat this. When he's saying the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, it's a personification. Fear itself, it's positioned by him as a real thing. It's breathing life in creating an entity where one shouldn't exist. And all the millions and millions of people and billions around the world that listen to that, okay, breathe life into it. And therefore, in my opinion, the screen farted something out and the people gave real life into it and sent it right back for the screen to feed on. And who knows? I mean, what I'm saying is it's literally possible that the level of fear that exists in this world is a little bit higher today because of that one line. Because of billions and billions of people thinking, well, fear itself, then thinking about it for a moment, that's an entity then. It's we should treat it like it has a persona. I'm telling you that there's something to that. Okay? Perhaps, as a general bit of advice, take it or leave it, this is something I've thought about, perhaps how terrified we are at the moment of our deaths translates into how much power they can actually wield on you after. So keep that in mind. Training ground, Spartan training ground. Anyone approaching your death, no reason to fear. And I'm not trying to make myself believe that either. At this point, there is nothing to fear, okay, at all. In fact, we should be relieved that we don't have to come back to the 666 realm. Okay, we all passed. Well, we're going to pass. We have tests to take in the future on that one. We're going to pass. 5th grade. Let's go on over to 5th grade. Class across the hall. Here's Billy Madison coming out of 2nd grade. It's said the masters of this realm can do very little without our collective permission. All your life you have quite literally signed on the dotted line, giving the system permission to screw you over. All your life, we've all done this. Given it permission. How many thousands of times have we clicked, I agree, to like a terms of service? Now, don't jump to conclusions. I'm not saying when your cable company terms of service to get a cable box installed commits your soul to Satan or anything like that. Don't jump to any conclusions. Just These agreements are thousands and thousands of paper cuts that add up over time. These people are very, no, not people. These things are very patient. Their plans span sometimes hundreds of years. They're going to take any little paper cut they can get whenever they can get it. And then just their tiny little paper cut, nobody notices. All these sorts of things are tiny contracts of agreement that all add up. Using your legal fiction name of Avatar, the Avatar name of first name in all caps, last name in all caps. I call myself Matt, the legal fiction name. And using it about 1 million times in a lifetime, tiny forms of agreement. That's what they are, but it's very hard to get away from, of course. We don't have to be perfect. First starts with just being aware of it. Do you breathe life into it, or do you constantly, say to yourself, whether you proclaim it out loud or to yourself, that I must use this legal fiction name, I must use straw man, all first name caps, last name caps, but it's not who I am. It's not. I don't breathe life into it, and I'm not creating more ties to the system, or ties or chains to the 666 realm. It's all, I think, how you breathe power into it or choose not to. Even if you use it, we have to all use it. These millions of things we've done over a lifetime, they're agreements. They're agreements that the system interprets as offering yourself up willingly to be a part of the system. If you pay the cover and step into the perverted nightclub, it thinks it can do what it wants to you. The most obvious one is voting. Your vote supplies those seeking control with a special, wonderful for them, cosmic karma, get out of jail free card. If these George Bush creatures are ever called to judgment one day, a few hundred years from now, this will be their first argument in their defense that they didn't bite off more than they were supposed to, and they didn't overstep their authority. They would say, we didn't screw anybody. No, don't accuse us of screwing anybody. Look, millions of these poor devils, they took the day off from work. They went out and voted for our system. They freely, with their permission, gave us their permission. They loved the system freely. They loved the shit sandwich we served them. Personally, I'm rescinding every agreement they ever tricked me into. I'm going beyond just not doing in the future. I'm saying anything that I'm aware of that I was tricked into, I rescind that. I withdraw all power back. And it was done on false pretenses. It was done under the guise of fraud. So how binding to me can it be? It's all fraudulent. They're operating on fraud, so we all should have the power to rescind. Can we remove 1 million agreements throughout one's lifetime? Through just simply a proclamation said internally or aloud? Well, I'm not taking any chances. I'm going to do it. Ooh, I noticed something I've been doing my whole life over here is basically in agreement with the system. And any power I've ever given it, I take back. Why not? Why not say it whenever you observe it? In other words, for this one, what do we have to lose? Nothing. If you have nothing to lose, do it. Now, 5th grade here is a book in and of itself. Enter into as few contracts as possible. If you want your cable box installed, we have to click we agree. Okay, no way around it. Fine. No one's going to read all the fine print in any of these things. I'm not saying to read the fine print, to try to line by line cosmically cancel it out. No, with your own intention, just in general. Maybe this is a crazy suggestion, but there is little to lose by employing these basic tactics. We're still only in 5th grade, especially if we have underestimated how powerful we are. So say it aloud. I'm about to click this accept button, or say it to yourself. You don't want to look like a lunatic in your cubicle at work. Why would saying it aloud matter? It's the intention, I believe. I'm about to click I accept to get more fucking TV shows. But that's all it is. If there's some fun print in here, I'm not going to bother reading it. If it binds me or ties me in any way with more Jacob Marley change to the beast system, I don't agree to it. It's a fraud. It's some sort of fraud. Interesting, though, side note, does clicking I am not a robot imply there may be a day in the future where you will accept that we are a robot? But these are just interesting things that come to me with a kind of a new perception I have. At the bottom of these things, you have to click, like CAPTCHA or whatever. Click, I am not a robot. And I always look at the wording. It implies that, well, you might not be a robot, but it certainly opens up the possibility, the way it's worded, that you may be a robot and one day will be a robot. So maybe I see the sinister element in too much. But I'm going to err on that side, considering the predicament we're in. I don't put anything by these devious creatures in the way they spin their spellcraft onto us and their spellcraft language onto us and the weird way they word things. Always, never take the skeptic hat off in that regard. Why are programs that run quietly in the background of your computer called basically demons or daemons? I got a mailer daemon error recently. Now, whoever came up with that, and why would they use that term? Does that sound nuts to you? Or if it doesn't sound nuts to you, then you're probably beginning to see how they really do things. So I might be wrong that mailer daemon error is not the system actually trying to relate that to a real demon, and Matt, you're losing it. Yeah, I might be totally wrong, but I'm going to err on that side. I'm going to err on noticing those sorts of things that nobody around us would take seriously. Okay, we all passed. Let's go across to 6th grade. Will our proclamations and our general intent have any power if we don't walk the walk and we fail to detach from this world now? You know, all the intent in the world, if you don't actually walk the walk and detach, 6th grade is, what good is it? As usual, there's truth in the Bible. It says, love nothing of this world. The Bible is about interpretation, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's rarely literal. Tremendous truth there. I don't think, though it means, love nothing of the world, I don't think it means literally to stop caring for your dog or to not take pride in, some woodworking you just did, or a pride in you paint a painted fence, for example. I don't think Bible is saying, oh, just reject everything. You can't take pride in anything you've ever done or in any relationship. I interpret this as love nothing as it's presented by the screen. What is of this world? Levette would say world means age or era. Love nothing of this modern era, the way it's trying to be force-fed to us. That's how I interpret that. The most basic interpretation of what we're talking about here is just maybe you'll remember it this way. Love nothing Ryan Seacrest ever talks about. But there's a few thousand more steps after that to complete 6th grade. That's the start. If you link to it or have ties to this society or ties to the screen, you may be tied to it upon death. You may forge your own Jacob Marley chains. Now this is the opposite of the Francis Dunnery song that I will link to again, because the message is so wonderful and it's a great song. This version of it, the other version is not. This version I'll link to. Because the only thing you get to keep is what you give away. Think of the incredible lengths this system goes to get you to engage with it. Their pusher man is 24/7, non-stop. The idea is to cut ties to it. Okay, how do we walk the walk and not just talk the talk? Must we move out of our homes into a cardboard box, like I've said, by tomorrow morning? Is that what we have to do? What does attaching or detaching from the system really even mean? It ranges from, at the one end of the scale, the love of materialism, to simply how you define yourself in this life compared to others. It's simply, what I like to the best analogy is breathing life into the system. Detach starts with never breathing life into it. If you've lived your life collecting speedboats, for example, then it's possible Charon, or Charon the boatman, will have a speedboat pulled up to a dock to take you to hell, which means you'll be right back here again, because this is likely hell. You can see another Bush run against another Clinton in your lifetime, or your new life. Won't that be wonderful? Charon the boatman will morph into potentially what you deserve, based on how you lived your life. So for Tony Soprano, Charon will be a big fat Italian in a wife-beater t-shirt driving a cigarette boat with an inboard-outboard engine. How you think about yourself, how you define yourself or label yourself could be very important. And the way you define yourself may actually link you to this world. That's one of the tricks of this world. So a person's gravestone may describe what the person was on earth. We're used to seeing this. Gravestone. So-and-so is a World War II veteran, was a loving husband, and a chemical engineer down at Dow. Was also the bearded lady in a circus for a while. For most people, even their gravestone acts as a final attachment to this 666 lower realm. Think about it. Even the gravestone can be a final chain forged to attach to this realm. You'll hear me out. You'll understand what I'm saying in a moment. I'd like to come across a gravestone someday. Describes what the spiritual entity that walked in this plane of existence was on the gravestone, and it says this: "Here lies the avatar of an immortal spirit who experienced this world and ain't coming the fuck back again." Right now, that is my gravestone. Here lies the avatar of an immortal spirit who experienced this world and ain't coming back again. I'll leave out the expletive on the gravestone in case children are wandering by. Just like in A Christmas Carol with Jacob Marley, did you live this life forging chains to tie yourself to it, to horcrux your spirit here? To lock your divine self or aspect of your spirit? Did you just help the system horcrux you here into this realm, implant your spirit into Ravenclaw's lost item, which is the realm itself? Or did you cut ties to it while strengthening every divine aspect using all the tools that this life gives you to do that? Did you live this life using the Spartan training ground to improve your spirit, which means you may be one of the few people who prepared to move on to something better than just this realm littered by McDonald's at every exit off the highway? This concept of how you see yourself or how you define yourself or describe yourself to others is similar, and doing it in the right way is similar to the scenes in the movie Miracle. Now, Miracle is about the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team that beats the Soviets, Mike Eruzione and blah, blah, blah. But a theme that runs throughout the movie, maybe Coach Herb Brooks really did this, played by Kurt Russell. It's a pretty good movie. He keeps asking the Olympians, they're not playing together. They're not doing what he wants. He'd say, Eruzione, who do you play for? And since they all come from college teams all over the country, they keep calling out their name in their old university. I'm Mike Eruzione. I play for Boston University. Finally, a few weeks later, one guy on the ice gets a clue. Instead of saying his old college team, he says, "Who are you? Who do you play for?" He says, "I'm so-and-so. I play for the United States." So all of a sudden, now there's team unity. They've gone above their identifications of the university they played for. So the related question here is, who are you? If you answer that question offering a list of bullet points and a list of accolades that this world has bestowed on you, like PhD, for example, you are forging your own chain to this plane. People answer, who are you? What are you? I'm at a cocktail party. Let me tell you, I'm a Dartmouth graduate who is an architect working for Exxon, living in the corporation of Los Angeles. Oh, and by the way, my matrix social security number, my prisoner number is blah, 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 blah. That's about the same thing as saying, I'm Lestat. Just by truly believing that's what you truly are, you're crafting, or people are crafting, a giant Jacob Marley chain for yourself. This system is expert into getting people to believe all they are is the body, the avatar, the frontal lobes, and the ego. And that's reinforced by all the accolades and all the bullet points and all the wonderful awards and ribbons that this system has given people so they can just refer to that. Oh, I'm a doctor. I'm a PhD. I'm all these things that the system tells me are. So why not believe that upon the day of their death, they're likely all those things, they've created nothing else, and at the very best, they'll be recycled right back into the 666 realm. If you believe you are that matrix title, then probably literally you are that. And that is of this world and not beyond the snow globe. Remember, love nothing of this world. The society is set up so billions of people invisibly and unknowingly forge their own shackles to this world, leaving their eternal spirit horcruxed here or somewhere else. I don't think the control structure works so hard and goes so far out of its way just for results in this brief lifetime. Just because it wants you to do certain things now, in other words. That's why it works so hard with its Ellen degenerate creatures and all the stuff and all the games it plays. It's not just for now. It seems like there's a bigger, grander scale involved here. I think they do it for something on a much grander scale with bigger consequence. Perhaps your eternal existence is at play, because that's the way they seem to act with all their schemes, don't they? It's not just so that you come and buy a new car and that gives them money. People don't see that's not even seeing around one corner. It's about a whole lot more than that. The schemes of the minions of the screen. Now, what do most people do? Do we act like eternal existence is on the line here, and that is a stake there? Well, Matt, that sounds awfully biblical. Well, yeah, it is. These themes, the real truths of this existence, of course they would run through the Bible. Yeah, the Satan archetype, I've said many times, is real. We agree on the main points. We disagree in certain areas. What do most people do? Do they act like there's a whole lot on the line here? No, they just run around trying to score more Hamilton tickets. I think this is where the famous opening phrase at a cocktail party came from. What do you do? Think about it. The famous phrase at any party. It's not something mankind came up with on its own. This is a system learned formality given by the screen. What do you do? Ask somebody at a party. Society's script has told us to start any conversation with that. What do you do? For nothing else could be remotely as important as your job and your main tie to the 666 realm. What could be more important than that? What do you do, of course, means what is your employment? Then why don't people ask it in plainer language if their employment is so important? And that's the first question you ask somebody at a party. Why don't they just say, a woman approaches you at a cocktail party and asks the man, what is your occupation during the week? Why not just be simple? What do you do? See, by answering what do you do in a certain way, it ties you to the realm. Am I losing it? Is it a little out there? Maybe, but I'm going to err on this side. Why use the words, what do you do? Think about it very carefully. Understand words are a form of spellcraft. Words are ways to bring life into certain things. Life as we reflect them back onto the screen. Why have we been conditioned to answer back with what we spend time doing between, say, 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. for most people, Monday through Friday? Why can't somebody respond with what they like to do at night? Language is laid out in a certain way on purpose. If people at a cocktail party are so concerned about knowing your employment, they should be more precise. What do you do during the day to collect more green paper with the demonic runes on the back? Do you work for yourself, or do you work for a giant egregore, a thought form demon like, say, Procter & Gamble? The courts now call these things people, corporations. Now, I don't know if that was an attempt to have real spiritual beings like you and me, breathe life into them, to breathe, more reality into the corporation egregore, or potentially by the courts calling corporations people, it was to belittle the term people by drawing them down towards the level of the corporate demon. I guess they win either way. It's one or the other, or maybe both. No judge acting in the best interest of people, if anything about a judge was real, would declare Pizza Hut Corporation is a person. I mean, the reason for that go way beyond most people's understanding. Of course, they don't understand what I would say, so they'll call me a freaking lunatic. Okay, guys, in an hour and a half, we should wrap it up. Please stick with this video. There's one more very important thing to discuss at the end. I just want to say now's a good time to take a break. The video's long enough. I remember having a 6th grade graduation We had a formal graduation, 6th grade, before we went to the junior high or middle school. Like we sang Journey, Open Arms. I mean, are you kidding me? Anyway, whatever. I don't know why I thought of that. But now's a good time to stop. We'll do our 6th grade graduation. More grades will come in the next video. And it's summertime, like summer break. You just did 6 grades in 1 year. So take a nice summer break. I'll be back. Not summer break. I'll be back like in 4 days or so, hopefully, or even sooner, I hope, to finish the grades. When I said I wouldn't be back for a week or so or more, I thought I'd be able to get through all the grades, and the grades are pretty much written out, and just a little bit of tweaking. But one last thing, very, very important. Like these grades, they're not the final win, especially in like 6th grade, what we just talked about. Redefining who you are. Do you take the system definition and what appears on your business card and you'll put that on your gravestone, or will you redefine who you are, like the Dances with Wolves, the path of a true human being? Stopped using the name John Dunbar, not Dunbar, Dunbar. Stopped using the name. Stopped wearing the soldier's clothes. Stopped going to the soldier's fort. The soldier's fort. Then he started, being was it a Sioux Indian, I guess, that walking the path of a real human being. He used his name, Tupani Tutanka, stepping into that path. But that's all these grades are. Okay, it's very important. Stepping into the right path. There's still a lot of work to do. There's still like 1,000 fields to be plowed. But you at least, I'm trying to just a little bit point people into the right field. The system has you we're in the demonic field, the muck, the crap over here. So in other words, defining yourself correctly, like we talked about it in this 6th grade here, and not using the system definitions, that's not the final win. It's because just a slight definition in how you define yourself is still about the avatar to a degree. It's still about the frontal lobes. It's you have to take many, many more steps. The farthest step in this regard would be something like samadhi. Samadhi, which I don't even fully truly understand. Of course, it takes a whole lifetime. But samadhi is like a complete separation of what people call you or who you call you, or a complete separation of ego. Would be complete cutting of ties, a blending back into the one spiritualness of the universe. And again, things I don't truly understand, but the true win is closer to what is described as samadhi, not a slight tweak in how you define yourself. This is just simply, you're walking in this direction, and my grades help somebody walk a little bit different. But you're going to have to walk the path yourself. There's no final, magic answer here. Although the grades I think the grades are really a good way to kind of narrow down the correct paths. And maybe I'll put too much stock in certain ideas or techniques presented in certain grades, but I assure you this: there's no downside in these grades. Some may be on the mark, some may be off, some may be useless. You could decide that for yourself, but I don't think there's any downside in these grades. I was very careful to that, where you could say, well, Matt, how could there be downside to any of it? Back to what I mentioned. Somebody saying, ask the ether. Just ask the universe for the ability to see certain things. Ask the universe for riches. Get into bed with whatever creature might respond. That I don't know that's what would happen, but you could see how there could be downside to that. Okay? So I don't think there's any downside. I was very careful in that, in any of these grades, if you want to pursue them. But think of them only as, okay, finally found the right path. Not that the people listening to this generally know the right path anyway. They just like listening to me because sometimes I define it in a way or in a sense that becomes more easily seen, or a little bit easier to find the path. Everybody listening to this already knows most of this stuff anyway, or all of it. But okay, fine. We found some new paths here, and then I can get somebody, or we'll walk 3 or 4 steps together. But you look, the path is like 1,000 stepping stones. Everybody's going to have to do this for the rest of their life. The difference is the people around us, they're on a path. They're on a path, some sick Katy Perry path, right up the ass of the sick system. Choosing to eat its bake meats. Choosing the sick system is what everybody's doing. They're not even looking for the path that we're trying to find. So, look, it can't be that difficult, guys. I don't think this system, whether it was hijacked or not, is designed so nobody gets out. Well, there's only been 5 people that have ever escaped it. The Dalai Lama 1, Dalai Lama 20, Gandhi escaped it, and some other Jesus escaped it. But that, it's not that. It can't be that hard. It can't be that hard. Okay, but with the stakes this high, we're not going to take any chances. Well, Matt, if it can't be that hard, then okay, we found the correct path. I'll just take a few steps, keep my speedboats. Maybe it might work for you. But with the stakes this high, what are the stakes, Matt? Well, I don't know. An eternity, like, we can't even define that in things we understand, like the next 100 trillion years. With the stakes that high, because I think all the shit around us is for a reason. It's not just a result of an explosion, like the atheists would say. I'm going to assume the stakes are that high, and I'm going to use every tool that this realm gives me to go the whole way. And it's like studying for a test. You just need to pass at a 70 or more. And you study for it like you need a 98 or 100. Study that way. The stakes are too big to play close. But that being said, it can't be that hard. They can't be successfully corrupting 99.9999999 of everybody that's ever come in this realm. No, they don't act like they're that assured of themselves, do they? The way they run around and scheme and all the bullcrap. They don't act like they act like they're a little desperate at this point, which is strange because there's a big group of mutants here, but the people around us are more, we would say they're more lost and more in the muck than they've ever been, more loving and bowing down to the system. So, I don't know, guys, but that's the best way I can summarize it. Let's do summer break, which means like 3 or 4 days, and then we'll come back and at least graduate high school. Billy Madison I think he's still playing dodgeball in 1st grade.